Hello everyone and welcome back to Cody Tarot. I am your tarot reader, Cody. Okay, so for today's pick a card, we are doing your future spouse's life story. So this is a very interesting reading. We're going to be doing basically a past to future read of basically everything that's coming through their life. The interesting thing is I'm going to do it where their past is like what happened to them before they met you, and their future is what happens to them after they met you. So we're assuming the present tense is kind of when you meet them, which could be in the future, in any, given time. But when you meet them, it's kind of like how your life continues with them and then what their life was like before, you met them. I'm going to try to focus this individually on their personality only. So I'll be going into less detail about kind of like how you guys interact and all of that stuff. This is just meant to be like what they're like and kind of maybe how to recognize them based on what people tell you about their life story. So let's get into the pick a card. So here's the crystals before you. We have this double pointed quartz crystal. I'll lift them up for you. Double pointed quartz. Then we have this piece of amber, not really a crystal, but it's fossilized tree resin. I thought that was pretty. We have a piece of amber for group 2. Group 3, we have this amethyst heart. And group 4, we have this black tourmaline. So, take all the time you need to pick your crystal. This will be very interesting because I haven't done a reading like this in a while about your future spouse, so it'll be good to get back on that, marriage bandwagon train thing. So yeah, take all the time you need to pick your crystal. You can pause the video here if you need to. After that, we're going to get started with group number 1 with the double pointed quartz. Hello, group 1. This is if you picked the clear quartz points. Okay, so this reading is all about your future spouse. We have your future spouse's personality right up here, which I'm going to be briefly going over before getting into their life story. Basically, this is the past, and I have a tea leaf oracle to link to each card. So these 2 tea leaf oracles link to the outside cards, and these 2 up top link to the inside cards. We're going to be reading in chronological order. So let's start with your spouse's personality. Oh, and this is a reveal as you go. So this is not like, I did not look at the cards beforehand. I did shuffle beforehand, but I'm going to be revealing as we go, basically. So Hawk Spirit, let Spirit be your guide. One thing about your person is they are highly spiritual. And they definitely have the quote unquote bird's eye view of everything. This is the type of person who kind of sees not necessarily far into the future or the past, or kind of like, I wouldn't say they necessarily have like divination abilities, but they definitely have a grasp on like the larger picture of the universe. So they're very in tune with the universe. So don't think like your typical kind of tarot reader or any kind of seer or someone who kind of sees into the future, but think someone who can like feel the universal forces working around them. This is someone who, even though they don't see too far ahead into the future, are always in the right place at the right time. Interestingly enough, they may have gone through some trials and tribulations in order to get there, but we're going to see. We're going to check out in the cards what's next. One thing about hawks is they make good use of their resources. If you know any hawks, they can catch live prey or they can kind of eat roadkill. They kind of use what's left in their environment to like produce kind of like optimal results. So this person's going to be very efficient. Very, I would say, to the point, but also in a way majestic. So they're going to have a little bit of mystery around them. Let's get into their past. We'll be going back into them too, but let's get into their past and see what the first card is. Okay, so we have the 4 of Swords reversed and Cat, a two-faced friend. Okay, so I'm definitely sensing that loyalty is very important to this person, to your future spouse, because your future spouse at a very young age met someone in their life that kind of they thought was going to be someone who is just like upfront and honest, and that, you know, everything that they told that your future spouse was going to be like basically honest in what they meant, right? But what they didn't realize is when this hawk person, your future spouse, was telling them things, telling them secrets, they would go and tell someone else. Interestingly enough, this made your future spouse not feel that relaxed in this person's presence, and actually started them off not trusting people at all. So very early in their life, they developed this mistrust of others, and kind of like a restless nature, kind of like an energetic nature, kind of like mentally quick, trying to take care of it all, because this like disloyalty kind of shocked them out of that restful state. It's like they entered the world kind of blissful and at peace with everything. And then as soon as this person kind of talked behind their back or kind of shared information to either their enemies or someone that they didn't want to have that information shared to, then this person, your future spouse, got very like kind of like uptight, and so they're not as relaxed anymore, and they have their mind moves kind of more quickly because of this situation. They think a lot more about what they have to say and the intentions of people. They kind of learn that people are not all good, and that some people you can't trust, and so that's the lesson that they had to learn really early on in life, and that's where they are very big on loyalty, and they're very big on I think communication, but also communication that's kept between them and one other person. So let's see, in the present moment, right before you kind of meet them, before you get married to them, this is something that happens more in their like later years of life. So their beginning years of life, we had this whole aspect where they couldn't really trust people. They found out that people are kind of like have their own self-serving interests. Now, interestingly enough, with the shield, you need to defend yourself. They started getting really defensive, like later in their life, or kind of close to when they're gonna meet you. They had this whole idea that like, not only are people not trustworthy, but they also had to kind of defend themselves from specific people. So their walls are definitely being built higher and higher and higher. Interestingly enough, with the Hawk Spirit, let Spirit be your guide, they are quite a spiritual person, and they do see the bigger picture. It's just that now, instead of kind of like, they're not the type of like kind of like dreamy-eyed idealists that kind of see the bigger picture in terms of like that you can trust and love everyone, and everyone's going to care for you, and everyone's a good person, but they kind of see the realistic big picture, the realistic view. We're seeing here with the Page of Wands, interestingly enough, this card is reversed, but this little fairy with kind of like a candle, and I'm imagining this fairy with like a kind of a night light walking through the night. So it's kind of one of those things where they feel like they're in darkness. You know, they can see like outside themselves in the world around them, but they can't really see what's coming up next up close. How do I put this? It's like they have super good hearing. Like they can hear very, very well, but they can't see what's coming next. Or vice versa, they have super good eyesight, but maybe their depth perception's off. Like everything's crystal clear, but they can't tell how close or far objects are to them. So they definitely see this bigger picture world, but having to defend themselves has come from some other instinct, like maybe their sense of touch or something. So as soon as someone kind of like gets in their bubble or in their auric field, they kind of react, or they kind of have to defend themselves from other people's energy. I'm definitely seeing a little bit of like aspects of absorbing other people's emotions and then trying to protect yourself from that, or absorbing people's negativity and trying to protect yourself from that. There's a whole element of, it's interesting because there is this whole protection aspect, but it's also interesting because they feel like they can never develop their inner world and grow because they're constantly being bombarded by things from the outside. So much of their energy has always gone into defending themselves. I think we're going to get into some more lucky territory here because I'm definitely sensing a transformation with this person. They definitely had like a hard time in their beginning of their life. You know, this person's going to be very mistrustful. They obviously are going to trust you because you are going to get married to them. So there is that closeness, there is that communication. Especially if you are a pretty straightforward, honest person. You know, if you can tell someone something to their face instead of behind their back, they appreciate that, right? And they appreciate the fact that, like, you know, you can kind of like keep things open, and also be like clear with where your loyalties lie, basically. Yeah, interestingly enough, with the Page of Wands over here, I'm seeing this whole idea that they can't really learn and develop any kind of new idea or passion or project because they're all constantly defending themselves. So they kind of have to stick to very survivalistic mechanisms and techniques in order to advance in life. So let's see what happens soon after you meet them and you marry them. We have fortitude, strength. And we also have coins. Money will be coming to you. So one thing I see with your future spouse, as soon as you guys get married, is that you guys are going to be a powerhouse when it comes to money, right? Like, something about the combination of you and them is going to create a lot of financial freedom for both of you. And with also, we have strength right here. This is going to be a skill you can rely on again and again and again. One thing that this person feels as soon as they meet you is that they can rely on your strength. They can rely on your fortitude to kind of like weather the storms of life. So this need to defend yourself, which we have with the shield, that kind of goes away because in a way you protect them. You kind of, just by being energetically in their proximity or communicating with them, they kind of restore their faith. And this is, interestingly enough, strength is also about gentleness and kind of like inner strength. So there is an element here where they gain kind of like inner strength, they gain inner fortitude. They're able to kind of work on these hobbies and passions and projects that they kind of wanted to do, or they're basically free to let their mind wander because they don't have to worry about outside attacks. They don't have to worry about outside threats. And interestingly enough, it looks like you guys are going to have a very prosperous life, at least in the very beginning stages of your marriage, because as soon as you guys marry and meet, we got the coins card, money will be coming to you. So interestingly enough, they feel a whole lot better once they meet you, and they just feel stronger. There is an element with the lion and the woman in the strength card of kind of like taming, like taming a wild beast or taming something in a person. So I'm definitely sensing too that there might be an element where you yourself are very like wild, or you have more of a wild nature, and this person is going to help tame that wild nature of you and kind of make kind of like a cohesive, kind of refine the manners of the beast. If you're thinking of like Beauty and the Beast kind of analogy, if any of you have seen that movie. And just, there's this kind of weird synergy where you guys are going to be making a good amount of money. So I would not worry about practical considerations as far as the money that you're going to be making. It seems as if when you guys are together, you just instantly are able to make a lot of money. Like, one person has the idea and the other person acts on it. It's very even. It's very, like, how do I put this? It's very mutual exchange, back and forth, reciprocal energy. It's that whole phrase, two heads are better than one. You know, you guys combined is just like quadrupling your effect, basically what you could have each done alone. So let's see, the final thing later in life. Oh, we have firecracker, excitement, and we have the 5 of Swords. Interesting, interesting, interesting. One thing I see with the firecracker with excitement is you guys are going to have a blast. You are going to have so much fun, especially in your older years. You know those older people who are kind of like sitting at home and playing like checkers and, you know, watching the news. You're not going to be that type of couple. You're going to be the type of couple that as you approach, like, and throughout your marriage, as you kind of build this wealth, I see you spending it. I see you kind of getting into like a lot of exciting things. Like, this could be, you know, either, you know, random activities like, the one I always think of for these readings is skydiving, but it doesn't have to be skydiving. It can be stuff that's like pretty simple, like, you know, like, I don't know, like windsurfing, or what else could it be? Even like sports, going to sporting events. There's just an element of excitement. You know, there's an element of like anything could happen at any given moment. Like the next turn, the next corner, something cool could happen, and it becomes this great story, this great exciting moment. Definitely what I'm seeing here with the 5 of Swords, there is an element of competition. So there is an element where you guys could both be, you know, into sports or into kind of like competitive games. So you might be, this could even be, if you're not a sports or athletically inclined person, this could be video games, like playing like, you know, first person shooters with your friend, and then like just like battling it out on any kind of like video game console, multiplayer game. Anyway, yeah, so there is an element of competitiveness to your relationship, and there's an element of like testing your strength against each other. It's almost as if once you build up this strength, this fortitude, it's almost like you get to use it. And that's the beautiful thing about this, is that you get to use this strength against each other. And because you guys are both recharging each other constantly, you have the money and the resources, and your life is gonna be filled with excitement. This competition between you both just brings you more excitement and enlivenment. It's not the kind of competition where one person is completely a winner and a loser. You guys will have that, but it's like, okay, they won this time, so I gotta get them back this time. It's definitely very playful. You know, interestingly enough, there is an element too with the Five of Swords. This is like a thing to be wary about for any of these other people that kind of took advantage of this person early in life and kind of attacked this person early in life. With you two combined, there is an element of like a powerhouse dynamic where you guys will be able to protect yourself from any threat. And it's almost like anyone who kind of crosses into your territory gets kind of like, you know, like they know to watch out. They know not to be two-faced. They know that they're not supposed to attack you guys. There's an element of protection between both of you. And I definitely see it's mutual. It's not only that they're protecting you or you're protecting them, it's a mutual protection in different areas where you're both strong, with Strength card here, in different areas, kind of protecting each other from the blows of life. It's kind of like us against the world mentality. It's definitely one of those kind of things. So, sorry, I spoke right into the mic right there. So that was your reading. If you enjoyed your reading, what else? I feel like I need to wrap something up with this. Man, you guys have a beautiful future. Poor your future spouse. Like, they had such a tough time, you know, growing up, and before they met you, life was a little harder. It definitely gets a lot easier once they meet you. Let spirit be your guide. This is just one thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the reading, where they can see the whole picture. They can see how everything interrelates. It's like you're kind of the missing piece that they get to see last. And so once they finally see you and you get put into play, their worldview can kind of change. And once their worldview changes, they're better able to adapt and move around in their surroundings. Yeah, so that was it for group number 1. If you like the reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, you subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this pretty frequently. With that said, we're going to move on to group number 2, the piece of amber. Hey, group 2, this is if you picked the little amber piece right here. Such a cool piece of amber. Amber is, I think it's the element akasha or something. And that's like the element of like life and living things. It's like different than like other stones, like elements that have fire, water, earth, wind, because it's like, it deals with like life and calling past life recall and stuff. Like, I think that, you know, petrified wood is another one that deals with the element of akasha, and that kind of recalls like things that have to do with the human emotion or spirit, or the element of spirit. Interestingly enough, just fun fact. Okay, so let's get into your reading. Okay, this is going to be your person up here. And then we go from here to here, past to future. These 2 cards, these tea leaf cards, correlate to these outside cards, and these 2 tea leaf cards correlate to these 2 inside cards. The present right in here is right when you meet them and you marry them. So this is basically just focusing on their life. So yeah, so let's get into your reading. We have Spider Spirit, make your dreams real. Okay, one thing about the Spider Spirit, this person is a dreamer, but this person is also, once this person's like actualized, I guess is the best way to put it, they are also a doer. So you can think of people who make their dreams into reality. These are any type of creators or artists or people that kind of like get a concept in their mind and then they have the ability and the capability to make it real. So this is not going to be your typical like idea person who just thinks of an idea and then doesn't feel like they need to implement it. It's the type of person who kind of like makes an idea and builds the web, even the social connections. The spider's a very social creature, is in metaphorically, because it's building this web, and it's kind of like a web of connections of people, you know, and it can trap people in its web and make them work to their advantage. So this person definitely is kind of a big picture person, but more than that, they're an implementer. They know how to gather the resources they need to make their dreams a reality. They're one part dreamer, one part doer. So let's get into your reading about them and their life story. We have the High Priestess in reverse and Carrot, opportunity or windfall. Interesting. With the High Priestess in reverse, I see here that even though they're imaginative and creative, their intuition when they were very, very young didn't work that well for them. But interestingly enough, and this is kind of like correlation, so they kind of were very lucky, but how do I put this? They weren't that intuitive about it. It's kind of like they may have been given a lot of blessings and gifts early on in life, like had a lot of like really fortuitous things happen to them. They may have, when they were little, like maybe their parents came into a lot of money and they had a lot of money when they were growing up. Maybe when they opened that pack of trading cards, you know, they got the rarest card, you know, the very first time. But they weren't that intuitive in the sense that they didn't really understand people for that much. Definitely with this High Priestess energy, she has all these octopus tentacles, and I'm definitely seeing that it's kind of like they didn't know their full capabilities when they started this life. They definitely grew their intuition over time. They definitely were imaginative, they just weren't quite intuitive. They didn't have the knowledge that was needed to move forward in life. So they really lived mainly off luck and opportunity or windfall. They mainly got lucky very, very frequently in their early life. Like they might be the type of person where they seem like everything's given to them, but they're like very naive. They don't really know what's going on in the world. They don't really know like the motives behind people's actions. They're kind of very like, probably very trusting, but at the same time, if they would get in tune with their intuition and develop that sixth sense, it would make them that much more effective at kind of like what they do in utilizing these resources. I haven't read any of the other cards yet, but sometimes in these cases, what could happen is that resources are squandered because they're not put into a long-term plan or a long-term vision. Especially early in life, if your intuition's not that good and you're just kind of getting all these different things, you might not know how to either save up for like a rainy day or know how to invest in particular things with those resources to like get the biggest benefit back. So there was some aspect where they were lacking as far as like understanding the world. They just kind of didn't really know how to put two and two together when they first got here on this on this earth. And that was one of the things that kind of like, I think sometimes with people like this, they can struggle in school, in the early years of school. And especially if you try to give this kind of a child like abstract concepts, they won't be able to like quite grasp it yet, at least in their early life. But they were definitely very happy. They had a lot of opportunity growing up, a lot of like, they had a very happy childhood is the best way to put it. Okay, let's get into their later future with, we have Goldfish, increase in material wealth or spiritual growth, and the Tower reversed. Okay, so this is quite interesting because I'm getting a very interesting thing with the Tower and the Goldfish. So even though their intuition was not that great early on in life, when they were like growing up, or as they were growing up, they realized they had the ability to kind of change the way people think and their core fundamental values and views. Interestingly enough, increase in material wealth or spiritual growth, this opportunity or windfall that they got early on just kept growing and growing and growing. And they basically, with spiritual growth, it's almost like they started learning and they started discovering things about the world, you know, especially with this Goldfish. basically with this like orange color here. The goldfish is kind of orange and the carrot is an orange kind of color. They definitely had a strong sacral chakra energy right away. And I kind of thought that this person was going to be creative because I figured they were going to be kind of like an artist or someone who's like a creative person that makes their dreams real. They definitely had a really strong imagination. They just didn't really have this realistic intuition about things. But this imagination kind of cultivated into the ability to like change people's perspectives. And interestingly enough, it was tied in with their spiritual growth. So somehow along the way, when they were making their dreams happen and they were creating and showing people these things, it was changing minds all the time. They were constantly changing different people's perspectives, thoughts, opinions, and people really could understand where they're coming from. There's definitely a very human element to this person where they're very relatable. People easily relate to them. Even though they're not quite sure the little intuitive idiosyncrasies going on with others, they're definitely able to have a big effect on the people that they meet. And kind of like specific people kind of get this beautiful window into their soul, and therefore they can change the way they view the world because this person's kind of an individual all into themselves. So let's go into after. So now you guys have married, you're together. So let's see what your future spouse is like when they are with you. Parrot, someone will gossip about all your secrets. Oh, wow. And then we have the Empress card in reverse. So one thing I am seeing is that right after they meet you, it's quite interesting because I'm definitely sensing that your future spouse kind of gives up a lot of this kind of wealth and security and opportunity, all the blessings that they've been accumulating throughout their life. They kind of renounce them. There's this whole element of like renouncing material possessions, renouncing the blessings that you've been given, and kind of wanting to get down to the simplest, most basic principles of life. This person could basically, once they meet you, become more of a minimalist, maybe live more not based on like receiving gifts and treasures all the time and having like a lot of material wealth. But I definitely see that the spiritual growth gets transferred over, but they also renounce a lot of material possessions. At the same time with Parrot here, I'm definitely saying where it says someone will gossip about all your secrets. It's very interesting. So first of all, this card just is reminding me of fame and fortune. I'm definitely saying that either you or your future spouse, one of you will be somewhat famous, like just some kind of a following where people kind of like talk about you and your life and what's going on in your life. So there's an element of being in the public eye here and having to deal with a lot of like kind of negative opinions about what's going on in your relationship. So I definitely seeing that like you guys might have to battle against some uphill battles about what people are saying to you and kind of commenting on your marriage and how your marriage is. And, you know, there might be a little bit of jealousy. I'm definitely seeing this with this magnetic effect over here that this person has, your spouse has. There is an element that like once you guys are together, there's this whole aspect of like kind of like jealousy from others around you and people just being really interested in your life enough to talk about it amongst their friends, you know? They're just really interested in what's going on, you know? And with this Empress card in reverse, I definitely see there's this element of renouncing material possessions, and there's also an element with the Empress card in reverse. I'm sensing also with the Empress card upright, it can sometimes indicate like a pregnancy or something. I'm definitely seeing with this person, they may not want to have children, or they may want to live kind of like a life, how do I put this? I think their minimalistic nature, just basically not wanting to create extra stuff in their environment and kind of getting down to the basics and living kind of like the most simple, clean life possible, could also extend to having a large family. Like they want to keep their family small and their legacy small. So they might, if they do want to have children, they would have like 1 or 2 kids, but they're not going to have that many. They're not going to want a huge family. Interestingly enough, but yeah, I think that's interesting because they definitely, I think with this web, right, they're creating this web of fans and people. And basically, it's like, think of this gossip and the people gossiping as like flies stuck in the web. You know, it's like they're so attracted to your person and your lifestyle that they can't help but buzzle and try to struggle free. And think of that as kind of like the talking and the gossip, you know, and you guys always get to hear it because they're in the web. Let me make sure, I'm trying to make sure the camera's still on because I think it shut off recently one time. But okay, so let's get into the far future. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Okay, so in the far future with you and your spouse, kind of like, I always think of this period as like 40s, 50s, 60s, and then onward, kind of like what happens when, you know, the whirlwind of life has settled down. I'm definitely seeing with Belle, and there's an announcement. Oh, that's interesting. There is an element that when you guys get further down the line and you're older, there is going to be some kind of pronouncement that you're going to be making to your friends and relatives, and even maybe to the public eye that you're in, about your life. And about what you decide to do with your life. There's kind of some kind of like big change that like needs to be shared with the world, needs to be spoken to the world. This is kind of like a message. It's kind of like a calls to arm or a message for a future thing. I can see you guys developing a cause. And this is not just simply like a celebrity getting like a, you know, like a charity. This is kind of like a reworking of your life values. Think of this Tower card and what they do for other people and kind of always constantly changing their perspectives. It's like finally like their perspective was changed and your perspective along with theirs was changed. And so in this later step of life, I definitely seeing with the Three of Swords reversed, there is this element of healing and emotional healing and kind of like healing from wounds of the past and kind of in a way, like becoming like really close with one another. I'm definitely seeing there could be an element of isolation, that you both isolate from the public eye and kind of retire to kind of like a place where you are both kind of like isolated together and maybe run off into the woods and just chill there. But for the most part, I'm just saying that you guys are going to be healing from a lot of emotional wounds. Most of your healing about all your life and wounds that have happened, I'm definitely saying because their life looked a little bit easier. If you had a hard life or if you struggled, there'll be some like things that you're finally overcoming. You're finally putting those wounds into an action plan. Now, remember, this is later in life. So, and you know, trauma can be very deep and long lasting. But by this point in later life, you will have overcome a lot of these traumas with this person, and they will be helping you through a lot of these difficulties and hardships. Interestingly enough, they're kind of with this Tower card and this goldfish energy, they're very much like a healer, or like they can shift perspectives quite easily. They can get in, they kind of have the ability to like connect to your soul and kind of like get in tune with it and in touch with it and have like a direct conversation to like your inner being, and therefore able to like affect you on a very positive level, you know, if they so choose to help heal you, you know. And I'm definitely seeing that in later life you'll have this moment where you're kind of like free from anxiety, free from wounds, free from pain, free from heartbreak. You just feel content. I can't describe it any better. You just feel kind of content. You can kind of see the swan, and she, you know, has like these swords running through her, but I always imagine like with the swords like falling out like this, like, you know, if they're upside down, they're falling out. So yeah, and this announcement's really interesting. To be honest, I'm not quite sure what this is going to be, but I'm definitely sensing a major life shift, a major life change, basically picking up a cause or announcing something to people, like making a very public display of like, we are this now, or we are doing this now. Something along those lines, or, you know, some kind of secret might be being brought to light. I don't know, it's interesting. So yeah, that was your reading. Let me see if I can think of anything else that this, about your future spouse. I think that about covers it. So if you like the reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards pretty frequently. With that said, we're gonna move on to the third group with the Amethyst heart. Hey, group 3. If you picked the Amethyst heart, this is your group. So the basics of this reading, we have up top, we're gonna have like your future spouse's personality. So I'm gonna go into that a little bit. get a little bit of their personality. But the main reason we're here today is to see kind of their life story. So we have the past to the future here. Right in the middle, right where their personality is, and right in between these two cards, that's the moment you marry, right? So we're taking the present moment at this point as like the moment that you marry. So this is after you guys are married, and then the future into your life together. And this is before your future spouse has met you and what their life is like up until meeting you. So let's get in and start right off with your future spouse's personality. Cow spirit, the miracles are endless. Okay, one thing about cow spirit that I'm seeing with your future spouse is they're a very peaceful person, right? They're a very peaceful individual. And another thing that's coming out to me right away is with all these flowers around them, they definitely like to dress up. So they definitely like to use clothing and items and things with their appearance to basically put on kind of like an effect when they see people. Another thing I recently noticed with 15 is the number 6. So 6 might be an important number to them. Yeah, with cow spirit, they're definitely a peaceful person, really showy kind of with their appearance. Definitely their appearance has a large effect on like how they provide peace to others. So there is an element of kind of like wearing certain color combinations or clothing that provides a soothing effect to those around them. So this is a person where when they see them, when people see your spouse, they instantly feel kind of like a connection. It's like they're so perfectly put together, their outfits and stuff, that they kind of have a beautiful kind of like composition to them, and a very like, and a peaceful healing aura that comes out of them. So there's definitely like definitely a beauty to this person, and kind of like, I wouldn't say quite sensuality, but maybe an ethereal nature that this person has. But at the same time, with cow spirit, I definitely see this person as also very grounded and earthy, very concerned with like the here and now and the present moment, even though they do provide this peaceful aura and this kind of like trance-like effect over others. So let's get into their life story. Okay, so in their past, in their deep past, we have, let me see what. Okay, yeah. So I thought that was the 7 of Wands for a second, but that's the 8 of Wands. Anyway, so we have the 8 of Wands, and bird flying news is on the way. So what can I say? This person is a storyteller. Like right off the bat, I can definitely see that. This person, when they grew up, they were very talkative, and they loved telling stories, and they love sharing news with other people. So especially like when someone would like tell them something, an exciting fact, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to share that. Like if they just found out that, like if they were a little kid and they just found out caterpillars, went into cocoons and then became butterflies, they would love that information, and they would share it with everyone they met. Like, did you know that caterpillars go into cocoons, become butterflies? And they would know all the other little facts in between. Like, they go in their cocoons for so-and-so, such and such months, and then when they come out, each wing's different, and they would know all this information, and they would be like sharing it very, very quickly. This person could also be very quick-witted, quick on their feet. And something that could have happened to them when they were really young is that news and sharing news could have been very important. There could be an element of just wanting to communicate with everyone. Yeah, this is a very fast-paced person intellectually and mentally. I think that's about it. I think what I'm getting right away, I was trying to see if I could see any kind of like things having to do with events that happened in their childhood that made them the way they are. But I think they just kind of came out like this. I think they just started like this and were very like intellectually quick and knew how to like share news with other people. They love discussing theories and things that they found, and they love talking about them. They just love talking about all those things. So let's see what they're like a little bit before they marry you and before you guys get into. Oh, okay. What are we seeing here? Okay, so we have fair woman, dealings or relationship with a woman with blonde, gray, or white hair. And we have swords. So I'm definitely seeing that with your person, with Fair Woman, there is an element that this person met a very influential, very influential woman in their life. Wow, guys. Okay, so my camera cut off, and because I don't see it, I keep checking it just to make sure that it's not cutting off, but I just like forgot. I went on and just did the whole reading. So let's go back to where we left off. So, with Fair Woman and Ace of Swords, this person had this woman come into their life, and this is someone who's going to be very like close in their life. This is someone who had such a big impact on them that they created this epiphany, a lasting epiphany that kind of altered their perspective for the future. So this person kind of got them to feel like a sense of enlightenment, really just changed their perspective. So I definitely see that this person really just had such a dramatic and powerful effect on them. I wouldn't worry too much about if this person is like a competitor or a rival as far as like love goes, you know. I think they're definitely, when they meet you, they're going to be very much in love with you. But this person could have been a relationship, but I'm definitely sensing more friend vibes. This person basically just changed their life, like made them have this epiphany. They used to be this kind of person who was super quick with their words and kind of like wanted to share things all the time. But this person with this epiphany kind of like altered their logic or their opinions, or kind of like brought them to a new level of understanding. This is like Ace of Swords card to me is like the enlightenment card. It's when like all your thoughts like catalyze and make sense. It's interesting because it's an ace. It, you know, can represent like beginnings or the potential or the spontaneous burst of a thought. But to me, it can also represent like clarity of mind and an enlightened state where all the thoughts solidify and kind of make sense. So this is just very clear thinking. This person basically was able to make them think clearly about things. So if there was any kind of confusion or fogginess in their life, this person really like shone light on that and helped them, you know, come to terms with like anything that was unclear in their life. This person really was a good person to bounce ideas off of and like spitball different concepts, because this person is changed this kind of like just sharing ideas and information to like formulating ideas and information and kind of coming to conclusions basically about things. Check the camera still on. Anyway, so now this is the big point. You guys have married, so we're moving on. You have married, we're going into the next stage of life. And so what we see here with the World card reversed in Arrow, this person is on a path to a specific goal. They have this kind of like goal in mind, and even though they marry you, they're still on that path to that goal. So whatever goal that they're focused on, it's like they're not quite at the goal when they meet you. You guys get married before they've reached it, but this Arrow card says you are on the right path regarding some aspect of your life. This goal could be career or a hobby. This goal could be spiritual goals, because with Cow Spirit, the miracles are endless. We're definitely saying that this person can be a highly spiritual person, right? We already mentioned how they give this effect on others based on how they dress and their personality, even though they're a very earthy person. And especially with the World card, I think in the World card, one of the signs in here is Taurus. And it's reminding me of the Cow Spirit. And kind of like, I think those are like the not the mutable signs. Well, I can't think of it right now. But yeah, so basically this person's like not done changing yet. They're not finished changing. Oh, the fixed signs. Okay, so this person is like not done changing yet. And yeah, they're still on that path to their future. Okay, let's get further into it. We have the Moon and the Nine of Swords. So with the Moon and the Nine of Swords, there is an element of like, there's this interesting thing with changes in your life. And then also with the Nine of Swords, with representing kind of like a sense of anxiety in the later years of life. It's almost as if there is some kind of major thing that happens to you guys at the end of your life. I'm definitely seeing that there is an element of, I think this cow spirit person completes this goal, but there is an element that happens with, and especially with these three birds, you know, it's reminding me a little bit of the Three of Pentacles or the Three of Cups, and how, and there's like groupings of three in each. So, and especially with the moon, I'm definitely seeing this whole element. I don't know if you guys know the cycles of life. I think it's the mother, the maiden, and the crone. I don't know. It has to do with, I can't think of the word for that symbol. It's almost like a triangle. It's the symbol that's in Charmed with the three, and it represents like the three aspects of like life, like the child. I think it's the child, the maiden, and the crone. I think that's what it is. Or the daughter, the maiden, and the crone. It represents the cycles of life. So it's almost like you guys have come full circle towards the end of your life, and there's a cyclical progression to this. This can mean like passing on like things to your family. This can also represent just kind of like a sense of anxiety about the end, things coming, like with the changes coming in the moon card, representing like maybe you guys are in a time in your life where massive changes are happening to you and you're not quite sure how you're going to kind of like leave this earth. You know, it's kind of like you're not really ready to leave. And the best thing I could say for this pile is just that basically I just want to end with saying that these changes, to me, they feel serene and natural. I think that for me, this moon card represents kind of like serenity. It can also represent the fact that like anxiety is going on around you guys, not just with you, but around you, but you guys or yourselves are serene. In fact, I'm positive that's what it is. There's an element that the world around you is kind of turning kind of chaotic, and you kind of are the last living peaceful people on the planet, if that makes sense. And it's kind of like, with this anxiety too, and going back to cow spirit, where they provide like a peaceful atmosphere, a peaceful energy to those around them. It's almost though as towards the end of your life, you know, the element of like providing the peace is kind of like slowly dimming, or the light slowly dimming. So you might notice, this is kind of just natural, but you might notice that as you pass on with your spouse, or as your spouse passes on, there is a brief moment of anxiety for either, depending on how things go, for like your family and friends. It's almost like, because this person's kind of a solid key component in the life of the people around them. So there is an element of that. It's sadly a bittersweet ending for this pile, for your person. But I just want to say that it will be a time where you guys will recover, because you definitely have, with the Nine of Swords here, it's a minor arcana card, and it will pass. People will recover. So the one thing I want to say is, do not freak out if you're worried about leaving the people behind you, or family, or people and loved ones or love interests behind, because they will be okay. They will be all right. I feel like with this cow spirit, with the miracles are endless, you just provided so much for those around you. You provided so much love and care and attention to those in your family. So don't fret, but it's going to bring, as you get to older age, it's going to bring a lot of changes in your life, because as your life energy starts to wane, the peaceful aura that you kind of emanate starts to dim as well, until you guys pass on. So, but anyway, it's interesting. We start so fast paced in the beginning of life, and then with this person, they end kind of like slowing down with the moon. I definitely see this element that you guys will be peaceful at the end of your life, to not stress about the fact that the peaceful aura is like not translating to those around you, because you yourselves will be very, very peaceful. You'll kind of be gazing at the moon, so to speak, and kind of like accepting the changes and the phases of the moon. It's interesting. This could indicate too that you guys get more into astrology as you get older, and the moon phases as you get older, and start to focus and cultivate your life based around those kinds of things. Yeah, well, that was your reading. And if you like the reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, and subscribe to my channel. I post pick-a cards like this pretty frequently. With that said, we're going to move on to the last group, group number 4 with the black Tourmaline. Hello, group 4 with the black Tourmaline. So let's get into your reading. So a few things first to start your reading off. So this is going to be your person's personality. And then we're going to be doing a past to future of their life. Interestingly enough, so the present will be like when you guys are married. So as you progress, this is kind of before they met you, and this is like after they met you, kind of like with you. But it is going to be focused more on their life and their life path as we go through this. So just keep that in mind. It's not so much about the relationship, but it's mainly focused on like your future spouse and their life. So let's start with the dog spirit. Be loyal to what you love. Okay, this person, interestingly enough, is going to be your best friend. This person has that kind of friendly quality to those people that they meet. You know, this is someone who, dogs are one of the animals in the animal spirit that aren't afraid of humans. So think of someone who's very humane, very into people and love, and easily loves and gives love and shares love and receives love very like graciously, I guess is the best way to put it. So be loyal to what you love is just even more important to them because they love so many people, but at the same time, they're loyal to all those people. So if you're taken under the wing of this person, they are going to be loyal to you through and through. There's not going to be kind of this element of kind of like, they're not going to have more of a cat-like personality. They're definitely going to be more like, you know, like, you're my person, I'm loyal to you. One thing, interestingly enough, about this person, like if you think about dogs, and how, you know, if you own a dog and you're like, you know that your dog kind of like barks at passersby that they don't know, like strangers they don't know. But as soon as it's like almost like your dog gets up close contact and you introduce your dog, and you're like, hey, this is so-and-so, then the dog warms up to that person. Very similar to this person. So this person is not that fond of strangers. Especially, but it's like almost like it's like whoever's your friend will be their friend. So they're very like loyal to you, and they're loyal to like your friend group. This is a very adaptable person. They're going to easily come into your life and kind of like adapt to your lifestyle, you know, and then be very service oriented towards you. So let me make sure the camera's still on. And okay, so now we're going to get into their past in the very beginning of their life. So we have the 3 of Wands reversed and Seahorse, family matters. Interestingly enough, 3 of Wands typically to me represents kind of like a pause on a journey that's unwanted. It's interesting this came up in the beginning of life, because I'm definitely seeing this element of, to be honest, I'm seeing adoption. I'm seeing that either they were adopted by a family or they almost felt like I feel like they loved their family so much, but they just didn't feel a connection from them. There's some element where they didn't feel quite connected to their family early on in life. However, they definitely felt like their family was their pact. It's kind of like they might have been the glue that held the family together, but there is this component that they wanted more. So there is this component that they wanted to build a bigger family, or maybe even branch out and find a lot of friends. Like I said, this person is going to be like the most friendly, humane person. So there is a slight element in the beginning of their life where there was a slight sense of loneliness with their family, interestingly enough, but they really cared for them and they really believed that family does matter. It's just that there might have been like moments of isolation. If you see this wolf, kind of like the lone wolf, where they had to kind of branch out and be very social with those around them to kind of get more of the love that they craved. So this person definitely early on in life had a lot of friends, a lot of people that they kind of like interacted with. And I think that they really cared about their family. It's just something about their family, they couldn't be there for them. This could be anything from their family, like, or their parents them being maybe an only child, they could be adopted. Their parents could have been like, you know, workaholics and just worked too much and didn't really get to spend too much time with them as like children. So there's something along those lines when they first were in their life path, life story. Next we have horse, short journey, with page of coins reversed. Interesting. Okay, this person, interestingly enough, like started a few like businesses when they were growing up. Like this person was really good with money, and they were really good at starting these enterprises, you know. But the one thing they didn't like, because they were, you know, when they were younger, they're not so young. There's kind of like young adult. This is before, remember, this is right before they marry you. So it's like, but after childhood, before they marry you, they kind of like went on short little trips with their finances. So they kind of like were able to make their finances work for them. With short journey, I'm definitely seeing that they love to travel. They're definitely like spent a lot of their time traveling. Maybe not to like major places like out of the country, but definitely short trips to like towns over, or even like a couple hours away, journeying to somewhere. They like just getting out of the house and taking like, it's kind of like, if you think of a typical dog, it's like, they like to go on walks, right? You don't typically take your dog like, okay, I'm going to walk the dog today, so I'm going to drive him to, you know, 2 hours away to the next city. It's like, I'm going to walk the dog today, so I'm going to walk him around the block. It's kind of like that. They like to stick kind of close to home and do those traveling trips on their own. They definitely also had like a lot of business ideas when they were kind of younger. It's interesting. They liked working with money and playing with money, and they had all these ideas of how to make money and create wealth. But it's almost like the ideas were a little immature, or like they never kind of got off the ground, I guess is the best way to put it. Like they had a lot of these ideas, but they never quite got off the ground. And interestingly enough, this is the type of person who kind of felt like they were mastering things before they even begun studying them. So they wanted to kind of have it all before they put in the legwork to get there. They kind of wanted to be at the end before they started at the beginning. Okay, so let's get into what they are like after, you know, you guys get married. Let's see what happens. We have the King of Chalices. Interesting. And basket. Recognition, reward for merit. Okay, interestingly enough, this person's hard work and kind of like what they did with these business activities and the short journey and stuff, and kind of like being such a good friend to people and so loyal to people and just constantly putting their best foot forward to like build a family around them and a community around them, just to be loved and to love others. This really creates this King of Cups situation. And this is right after you meet them, right after you marry them. There is a solidification when you guys get married where they become kind of very balanced emotionally and very good with dealing with chaotic situations. They're just very calm in tricky or dangerous situations, and they know how to handle them think of this person as very, very confident. And very powerful. And interestingly enough, after they marry you, they start to get recognition and reward for their merit. Where before, people kind of like looked at their business projects as kind of like silly or like not really focusing on too much. They really find their own, not in business projects and in money, but in like emotional understanding and emotional empathy with others. So there's a whole element here of them being like a master of their emotions, a master of their feelings. And because it's the King of Cups, it's like the pinnacle, it's like the top. So this person is very emotionally adept and emotionally intelligent. They have a lot of emotional intelligence too. Interestingly enough, with recognition and reward for merit, there is something that happens soon after you guys get married where they're going to receive some kind of a reward for this. This could be anything. The example I'm thinking of is like if they're like become a psychologist and they work with people and they help people through their problems, they might receive a recognition or a reward for all the work that they did. If they are working for charity or in any kind of organization, a humanitarian organization, they're going to receive some recognition or reward for what they accomplished, and that's coming up with the basket. This can also represent just like being truly loved by those around you. This person's going to be very popular, not because they're like extra cool or because they're extra, you know, trendy or something, you know, not popular in like a superficial terms. But they're going to be popular on the pure fact that they're loyal to those they love, and those they love are loyal back to them. You know, it's that kind of unconditional love that like is going to get them the recognition and the reward of like what other people are kind of seeing in them. Let's see. And finally, at the very end of your life, we have Turkey, someone is behaving stupidly. And we have the World card in reverse. Okay, interestingly enough, I'm definitely seeing this like really cool element of this person where we have someone who's behaving stupidly. Your spouse is not afraid to like be a fool, like act a fool, you know, just be crazy. Like their sense of humor is going to be really like dumb humor. And I guess dumb is a negative kind of connotation. It's just kind of like, how do I put this? They're very like lighthearted, and their humor is very like kind of like goofy, I guess is the best way to put it. A lot of people might view this person in later life as kind of like unintelligent because they're going to be laughing a lot in their later life. Interestingly enough, with the World card, anyway, in the World card reversed, this also represents like them not quite completing all the goals they wanted to in life towards the end of their life, but kind of being okay with it, kind of being like retiring, you know, like I didn't quite get exactly where I wanted. I didn't quite accomplish what I wanted, but you know, I worked hard and I kind of had a fulfilling life. And even though I didn't quite get to the end point of what I wanted in my life, I'm still content. You know, this is representing like a sense of contentment, but even though you're not completing things, you know, to the what you thought you were going to complete at the beginning of your life. This is kind of like the kind of person that kind of thinks at the beginning that they're going to have like such and such things accomplished by their life and by the end of their life, but they don't quite get them done. But they left with something better. They left with kind of like a contentment and a satisfaction and memories of like the people that they loved and cared about along the way. And yeah, Turkey, someone is behaving stupidly. This is directly correlating to their sense of humor, especially in old age. They are going to be very funny, very clever, but clever in a dumb way, I guess is the best way to put it. Their humor is going to be very like simple. To be honest, I say dumb and simple, but this is like the type of humor that I have with my friends. It's kind of like really silly slapstick, like I don't know how better to put it, just like really goofy humor. So there's definitely a good sense that there's going to be a lot of fun in your life with this person. And you might, if you're kind of the type of person who kind of, you know, I can definitely see an element where you kind of look at them and sometimes you're just thinking like, oh my gosh, this is just another, you know, another joke, another day, like who did I marry, you know, but then with that loving intentions towards them as well. So yeah, anyway, that was your reading for if you picked pile 4. If you like the reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this pretty frequently. With that said, we're going to not move on to the next group because we're done. I'll see you guys later. That was the last group. I'll see you in the next pick a card. Goodbye.